Turns out that I was called to go to this place called Hong Kong, and I was like, right, where's that? They said, like, you know, do you speak Cantonese? And she was like, what? I just turned 18, and then now all of a sudden I'm an adult in a distant land trying to work out finances, and every time I went out in the street, everyone was speaking Cantonese. I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to learn this language. Oh dear, I'm in trouble. I don't understand anything.
I found you on Instagram, and I saw your videos,
Yes.
and I was like, whoa, is this like, is this guy speaking Cantonese?
Yes.
And from there on, I was just kind of like looking through your content, and I was like, oh, wow, I bet you this guy has like some really cool experiences.
Yeah. Likewise, I mean, I discovered you from you discovering me, but your content's sick as well, so...
Yeah, we probably have something in common where we have like maybe similar reactions to local people. Like if you're a
Oh, for
foreigner
sure.
and you learn an Asian language, you definitely receive a lot of attention, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's so strange, right? Because, like, obviously, when I'm in Hong Kong, everyone speaks English. We just take that for granted, you know, because they speak English. But it's very unusual when you just have some white guy who happens to speak Cantonese quite fluently, and like yourself, Tagalog. It's just different, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's kind of like, I feel lucky because there are lots of languages you can learn where people don't really care that much.
like the generic French, Spanish, German, things like this.
Mm-hmm. Or even for our experiences being English speakers, when people learn English, we're never like, oh my God, how did you learn that?
I know, we don't really care. It's just like, oh, cool, you speak good English, and then you just move on.
Yeah, like the people that put the effort in to learn English never get the credit for it, you know?
I know, and it's really hard for them as well. Like, my in-laws are still, I mean, they've lived in New Zealand now for 20 plus years, and you can still obviously tell that they're from, my wife's father's from Hong Kong, her mother's from Taiwan, and you can still tell that it's like they're still learning, you know, and it's 20 years on, you know, so it's not easy for them. They find it really difficult.
Yeah, I think the accent's always the hardest thing too, right? Like ultimately.
Yeah, the accent for sure. They still struggle with pronunciation with certain words, but nobody really like turns around to them and goes, wow, that's so cool that you're learning English, you know, but it's really hard for them. It is difficult.
Yeah, and for me as a Canadian learning Tagalog, that extra motivation really helped like encourage me to continue learning, you know?
It's when you get complimented, right? You get complimented, it's like, it makes you feel good. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna keep going here, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Or even if you just speak a few words or like a basic sentence or something and the other person is like, oh my God, it makes you feel good and you're like, man, I want to keep learning this and keep expanding and get at a more advanced level and all that
100%.
kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
But let's take it back to the beginning with you, Daniel. I'm really curious about your story. Where were you born? Where were you raised?
Sure. I was born and raised in Northern Ireland, in a town called Bangor, Bangor, if you want to pronounce it. It's spelled Bangor, but we pronounce it here Bangor. That's how it's.
Okay. Sounds like
Bangor. Yeah, Bangor, basically.
Okay.
So that's where I'm born and raised. And then at 18, but a little bit about me. So did all my schooling and stuff here, and I left school and played golf at a very high level here. So I was selected to like represent like my sort of region in like golf at an amateur level anyway. And I put a lot of time and effort into my golf. I was, you know, Rory McIlroy.
I don't. I don't know anything about golf.
Okay, anyone that knows anything about golf will have probably heard about Rory McIlroy. He's been world number one. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He's from 15 minutes from where I grew up, and I would have played his golf course where he grew up very often, and he would come down to the golf course that I played very, very often. So I had the same golf coach growing up as him. So his main coach would have been the sort of head pro at the club I was at. So I would have got coached by the same coach as Rory McIlroy, which is quite cool.
Oh, yeah, really cool.
Yeah, and so I would see him during the summertime, coming down to our like range area to practice, and I was just blown away. I was watching this guy. He's older than me by, I don't know, 5-6 years, 7 years maybe. But I used to watch him hit balls, and he would come in his Lamborghini, and I was like, oh my goodness, I want to be a golfer, you know? So it kind of motivated me to keep going. So anyway, I got selected, and I was playing at a decent enough level, amateur anyway. And at 18, in the religion that I was raised in, I was offered to go and do missionary service. So I put my hand up and says, yeah, yeah, sign me up. And I actually selected I would prefer to probably not learn a language, and I'll explain why. Because in school, I'm the type of guy. So like I said, golf. I was so invested in the golf, and I fell in love with golf. So I was so passionate about it, and I'm the type of guy that when I'm passionate about something, it clicks, and I learn really, really quick, and I get better very, very quickly. So in school, I wasn't interested in languages. I'll be honest. Like I tried to learn French, bonjour, like a couple of basics, nothing has, I can't remember anything. German as well, I did that for a couple of years. No use. Just no use. So, but I just wasn't passionate about those languages at all. So I never thought that I was kind of a language guy, to be honest. I thought it was just English and that'll do. So when I was filling in like sort of my papers, like where would you like to go, or are you happy enough to like travel here or there or learn a language? I was like, nah, not really. English speaking suits me. I'm happy enough with that. Anyway, I got a call, like a letter to kind of go and serve as a missionary, and it turns out that I was called to go to this place called Hong Kong, and I was like, right, where's that? So looked it up, found out I was learning Cantonese. Was kind of really nervous initially, and I started learning a little bit about Hong Kong, and I then found out that the local Chinese takeaways, all these people are kind of from Hong Kong, and they're speaking Cantonese. So I was like asking them little questions and stuff. I was like, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be a challenge. So anyway, I then took off and did that for a period of 2 years. They sent us to America first, and for a couple of months, from like people who had kind of done the same thing as us, but they were finished. Right, so they came in to kind of give us learn the ropes a little bit. Here's a few basics to kind of help you survive and get by and communicate with the locals. So anyway, after the 2 months, me and a few of the other lads and a few other girls that were there, we thought we could speak the language. After 2 months, we're like, oh, we've got the basics down. It's going to be easy. So we set off in the plane. We arrive in Hong Kong, and we get off the plane, and it's late at night, I remember, and we're walking through the exit, and I could hear over in the airport Chinese, but I turned to one of the guys. I was like, are you understanding any of this? And he's like, no. And then I turned to another guy. He's like, yeah, it must be Mandarin, right? Because it's a different dialect, right? And so then we get out and we ask one of the more seasoned guys, yo, is that Mandarin? Because we're not understanding this. He goes, no, guys, that's Cantonese. I was like, oh dear, I'm in trouble. I don't understand anything. So, anyway, I ended up living with a bunch of native Hong Kong guys, and during the start of my sort of service period there, I spent time in Macau. So I was out there for about 6 months initially. For during the 2 years, actually, I spent 1 year in Macau and 1 year in Hong Kong. So I love both places very much. And in our recent trip back about 2 months ago now, I spent a few days in Macau meeting a few close friends that I've made. So, I started in Macau. What I found very strange was there's no English signs. Whereas in Hong Kong, at least you get some English signs and then the Chinese. Whereas in Macau, because of the Portuguese influence, there's the Portuguese language and then there's Chinese. So I'm going, oh dear, how do I know where I'm going? Because people will either refer to something in the Portuguese or the Chinese, normally using Cantonese for the Chinese. So I'll tell you something, I had a headache every single night. Every time I came home, I was like, oh my goodness, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to learn this language? But I suffered for that. Those 6 months were really difficult because the native people I was living with, they just kept speaking Cantonese and wouldn't really respond to me in English. Their English was okay, but they just preferred speaking Cantonese, so they kept doing that. And every time I went out in the street, everyone was speaking Cantonese, and everyone I met with was speaking Cantonese. And any sort of service projects we did, everyone was speaking Cantonese, and I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to learn this language. So I got my head down, put my head in the books, and I used to take out a notepad and pen, and I would use the Yale romanization. Because trying to learn Chinese, whether it be Mandarin or Cantonese, going character to character, you're going to be there forever. So I would write down. I learned sort of the Yale romanization to help me with the pronunciation. So if I heard something, I was like, okay, so that must be that. And then I would ask questions all the time. I would always ask the native, how do you say that right? And what's the tone? Because obviously it's a tonal language. So oh, okay, right, okay, I think I've got it, and then I'd repeat it over in my head. So I just randomly in the house or out in the street, I'd just be speaking Cantonese in my head to myself all the time, and then trying to practice. And so I just did that, and then during that process, probably in those first 6 months of my time out there, like I just started to fall in love with it, and then like you mentioned at the very start, people start to pay you a compliment, and you're like, oh, this feels good, like they appreciate my effort, they can see that I'm at least trying. Because some other people that were out doing the same sort of thing as me, they didn't really try. They really didn't. There was some people had been there 2 years and only really had the very, very basics, couldn't really string like proper conversations together. So I was really motivated. I was like, that's it. I'm gonna really put my head down, and I got quite good. After those 6 months, I'd say I could at least speak the basics, and my pronunciations and tones were quite good. And then I just kept adding vocab, and I started learning Chinese characters. And then by the end of the 2 years, I'd learned 3,000 plus characters as well. So which maybe half of them I remember today. I need to revise them because I don't really read anything in Chinese. So you forget quite a lot. But so yeah, that's kind of why Cantonese came into my life. And my wife now, Ellen, who obviously you'll see on our channel. She was born in Hong Kong. Her mother, like I said, is from Taiwan, but she was born and raised initially in Hong Kong, in the same religion as myself, and she just happened to be doing the same thing that I was doing at that time, and we crossed paths several times. And she went home a little bit before I did, and we just kept like in touch as like friends, as I did with several people. And I was like, when I got home, I was like, I'd love to see New Zealand, because I thought she was a nice girl. So I was like, I shot over to New Zealand. Long story short, we do the whole fall in love thing, got married quite quickly. And we got married back in Hong Kong, which was awesome. My whole family came, uncles, aunts, my grandfather. It was incredible. And all her family, massive family. All flew in from Taiwan, and all the Hong Kong relatives were there. So it was an insane wedding. We had great fun, and then we started life in New Zealand. Ellen fell pregnant quite early with our eldest boy, who you'll see on our page as well, who is called Zach. He is now 7. We're married 8.5 years, so he's 7 now. And then we have another little boy who is 2, called Harvey. But after we had Zach, about 6-9 months, we were in New Zealand on our own, and my parents would always call us and was like, why don't you just come here, so we did. The reason for New Zealand is, sorry, my wife, when she was 7, her parents, they moved to New Zealand to get away from Hong Kong and change up their lifestyle and stuff. So that's why we ended up there initially. And then we moved back to Northern Ireland maybe 6 years ago, probably now. About 6 years ago, and we've been here ever since. Harvey was born a couple of years ago, but we're actually in the throes of considering moving back to Hong Kong.
So you guys have like a really international life, right, from the beginning of your relationship.
Yeah, it's been crazy, but it's been good. Like, we were very young and very naive, like very young, very naive. She had a music degree behind her, but I had nothing. I was 20 at this stage when I was getting married, So I guess my plan initially was to play golf. When I came home, take it up again and try and push to play professional. Which, by the way, I have since done. So when we moved to Northern Ireland, I started playing with a few friends again, and I started to get quite good quite quickly again. I was like, yeah, it's still all there. I can still do this. And so I ended up playing on the European circuit professionally, sponsored and stuff like that. So I did that for a year, and then COVID hit. The dreaded word, COVID. So that hit, sponsorship kind of went away, because everyone was unsure how many events you're going to be able to play, what's going to go on, blah 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 blah. It was a whole mess. So I enjoyed it while it lasted, but it's different whenever you're married and you've kids now, and priorities are a little bit different. So it was kind of more about putting food on the table and keeping my head down and doing those types of things. So that's what I kept doing, and and then for some reason, my wife shared a post at the start of this year. January this year is when we started doing social media. And I came home with free Chinese food because I was at the local Chinese. And normally there's always a white person on the desk taking the phone calls, writing down the orders, and then they fired into the back for them to cook. But I was I was in, and the white girl that I knew, she wasn't there, and I was like, oh, interesting. And then the wee Hong Kong like mummy came out. She's like, hi, how are you? And I was like, hello. And I just happened to say to her, by chance you from Hong Kong, or whereabouts are you from? And she says, yeah, Hong Kong. And then I was like, oh, they sounds like Gong Guangdonghua, you know? Do you speak Cantonese? And she was like, what? What? You speak Cantonese? And so I had a great chat with her and just talked about my time in Hong Kong and how much I love the people, the culture. My wife's from there. Yeah, so she was really lovely, and she gave me some free food, and I wanted to pay. She's like, no, it's just great. I hope to see you again. Blah blah blah. They've since discovered my social media, and so when I would be going past there, they're like, hi, it's you. You know, how you doing? So, a really lovely woman.
Probably a pretty predictable response when you speak Cantonese.
Yeah, it's very odd, especially here in Northern Ireland. Yeah, there's no, I don't know if that's probably ever happened there before or will ever happen again, that there's just some big white guy who just walks into your store and starts speaking in your native tongue. It's kind of strange, you know? So she was really, it was really nice. And I still love getting those. It happens quite a lot when I'm in Hong Kong, but I love it every single time because that's what motivated me to keep going, right? But anyway, my wife shared this story of me getting free Chinese food because I speak Cantonese, and it did like 6-figure views, like 100 something thousand overnight, even though my wife only had like 300 followers, right? On a TikTok. We don't have an Instagram. And people then started commenting going, oh, you can't say you speak Cantonese and not prove it. You know, you got to speak Cantonese for us then. I was like, right, okay. So I started doing like videos on reading the menu, what you would say if it was in Cantonese. And then we kind of just went with it, and snowball effect, you know, we're at 60 plus thousand on TikTok and 106,000 maybe on Instagram, and Facebook. It's doing okay as well. So it's been a crazy year. It's been great, but the more we do it, the more we fall in love with it, and it's nice. We get so much lovely feedback, because I know a lot of people suffer with like negative sort of comments and stuff, but for the vast majority, people just see kind of how much I actually genuinely in my heart love the people and love the culture and the language. So I think they can see that. So we get an awful lot of positivity and a lot of really nice messages, and a lot of people who are like, you know, Hong Kongers, but perhaps raised in Canada or America or Britain, and they don't really speak it that well. They're maybe a little bit nervous because they grew up in English schooling. They speak a little bit to mummy and daddy, but I think perhaps seeing me, a guy who was born and raised in Northern Ireland and only spent a little time there and has been able to maintain it to a pretty good level where I'm quite proficient and I can communicate about most things to anyone, that I think that motivates them, and that's nice because I get an awful lot of messages about that. And so yeah, we're enjoying the process, and we're just going to keep going and keep sharing more sort of Cantonese culture, language. I do a bit of singing, obviously, and I've always liked singing, but I've never felt comfortable. It's very strange because I play guitar and I would sing in the house all the time and do little things, and my wife would always love it. She's like, oh, you should share, like, you've a really nice voice, and you know that. But I don't know what it is about when I sing in Cantonese. It's almost like a mask, you know, because yeah, I can sing in English obviously, but I don't know, I just don't like hearing my voice an awful lot. But when I sing in Cantonese, I don't know why, but I even like listening to it because it's Cantonese. I don't know what it is. It feels like a mask where I'm kind of hiding my Northern Irish self and showing off my Cantonese sort of ability.
Yeah, you're separating yourself from it a little bit. I can relate to that. When I was in university, I took different language courses. I actually did a Mandarin class for one semester. I took German, I took Spanish, and anytime we had a presentation, I found it easier to do it in these foreign languages than in English. Yes. There's less pressure. I don't know why. Yeah. It should be more pressure because you're speaking a different language, but you should get it like 100% right when you're doing it in your native tongue. But whenever you're not doing it in your native tongue, there's room for error, right? You're kind of like, oh, it's okay if I got something slightly off or something wrong. Sure, it doesn't matter. I'm just some white guy from Northern Ireland. What does it matter, you know? So I think I kind of perhaps like that aspect, but I actually genuinely prefer. I listen to a lot of like Canto pop stuff, especially like the older stuff. I just really like it, so I started listening to it, a lot of it this year, and so I play a lot of that on the guitar and sing away, and from time to time Ellen will record me do that and we share it as well, so people seem to enjoy that as well. It's just different, isn't it? A white guy strumming a guitar and singing in Cantonese. So yeah, if you guys just started in January, you're growing super fast too.
Yeah. It's been mad. We've been nominated for like influencer awards and stuff here, which is crazy. Wow. Which we will be at the end of this month, end of September. We got nominated for 2 different awards. Yeah, which it's crazy because yeah, I see a lot of people who. That's why I say to Ellen too, because we set a goal. It's funny because we're quite goal driven people, and we had a whiteboard and we wrote down, right, okay, do you think we could hit 5K like followers on TikTok? We didn't have Instagram initially. She only started sharing the Instagram several weeks later when TikTok went like this and then went poof, right? So she was like, oh, we should definitely be on Instagram too. So we started sharing that across. Whereas now, Instagram is actually our main sort of platform because TikTok doesn't exist in Hong Kong and Macau and stuff because of China and stuff, right? So you can get it, but it's a lot of people prefer Instagram as like the app. So we put more time and energy into it, and then we share what we have already shared there, kind of across on TikTok for people that follow us there as well. But that's why I say we have to sometimes just remind ourselves that you've been doing this 7+ months or whatever now. It's like 8 months maybe now. We've grown quite rapidly, and so we're extraordinarily grateful for the support because we smashed those goals that we thought were like. We said, do you reckon it's possible to hit like 100,000 followers? Like combined, this was in like 12 months. Drinking that, but I was like, yeah, if we're consistent, we keep sharing things, and people keep liking it. I think so. I think it's doable, which is a big goal. And then we hit 100K on Instagram alone in like just under 7 months, and I was like, wow, it's been insane. It's been insane. So we don't expect that to do that forever. But yeah, we've just fallen in love with this process of like creating Cantonese related content and kind of showing our lives as a biracial bilingual couple. Well, she's trilingual. She's fluent in Mandarin as well. Because her mum's from Taiwan, so she grew up speaking Cantonese to daddy, Mandarin to mummy.
What do you guys speak with each other?
Chinglish.
Okay.
Chinglish, a little. It's like Cantonese English. It's
Okay.
kind of like it's like lazy Cantonese. It's like if the word doesn't come to your head right away, it's just fire the English in. But if I give myself enough time, I'll be like, oh yeah, okay, this is that. But it's funny because the reason we really got motivated with this too was because I know I can speak Cantonese, but for several years there, I kind of neglected it, and we would actually then it was more English in the house really. We kind of neglected it, especially when we came to Northern Ireland initially, and we kind of feel bad because our eldest is now 7, and if we had to stay consistent, which we were initially for the first year or two, if we had to stay consistent, he'd be quite good now. But he only knows words, but he can't really speak a sentence as such because of the amount of time that we neglected it. So when we started this process, we're like, right, every day we're going to start speaking a lot more Cantonese in the home, and I'll teach him a phrase a day or a different word or things like that. And so he's coming along quite well. And the youngest one, he completely understands it. Like you speak Cantonese to him and ask him to go grab something. He's only just gone 2, so he's still working out even English. He like. It's baby talk, right? But he knows a lot of Cantonese words and phrases. Like his mum will speak complete Cantonese to him, and he'll go about and he'll get his pajamas, or he'll grab his bear, or he'll grab his toothbrush, or he'll go and get stuff because his mummy asked me to. So, which is cool. So it's motivated us to stay more consistent. My wife Ellen finished studying her PGCE. She has a bachelor's degree in music, and she's taught piano privately since I don't know 10 years. She's been doing it. So, but she got her PGCE to be able to teach in international schools with the idea in mind that if we'd like to go to Hong Kong, that she could teach in international schools, and our boys would then, because there's a few benefits when you do that, I guess, and the boys could go to school then with her. And I think for content creation as well, it'd be awesome for me, and networking with different people and meeting people out there. It just seems Northern Ireland's quite a small little place, and I love it, but it would just be nice to spice it up a little bit and do that for a period of time whilst we're young enough. I'm 28 now and my wife's 32, so we're kind of like young enough and our boys are young enough that we would like to try and do something different, especially with content in mind,
How old were you when you first went to Hong Kong?
18.
So before that, did you have any like international experience? Had you traveled anywhere else, or?
I just like holidays in Europe with my family would be about it. The generic sort of Spain, Portugal type places. Turkey. We did a Turkey holiday one year. Spain a few times. Portugal.
So that would have been quite a difference, hey?
Massive difference.
Like moving to another country for 2 years, like.
Oh, it was mad. Like the farewell is heartbreaking because you got to remember you're only 18 and you're not going to see your parents again for 2 years. The only communication I had with them was 1 email a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you couldn't like call or anything.
No smartphone, no nothing like that. No. No,
Wow.
it's genuinely dedicated service, which my wife and I kind of stepped away from that the church we were raised in, but I must say, like I have huge respect and huge love for these young guys and young girls that just like get up from home at 18, right, and disappear to another land and take on a new culture and a new language, you know. And most of the time, you're like serving people. It's a very uplifting experience because you'll be serving like poor and needy, and perhaps getting them things that they perhaps can't get themselves, or perhaps they need help with, you know, it could be garden work or anything, and you're just there to help basically. And it's a really fulfilling experience, I must say. And during that process, to be able to embrace a new culture and language as well is so beneficial. Especially a language like Chinese as well, which I got to learn. But my brother's fluent in Korean.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
From a mission trip as well that he did.
Yeah, from a mission trip as well. So when I got home, about a year after I got home, a year and a half maybe after I got home, he shot off to the south part of South Korea, and he served there for 2 years, and he hasn't maintained it. Maybe maybe he doesn't speak it as well as I do Cantonese, because he doesn't speak it like with his missus or whatever, you know, like she doesn't speak Korean. So but he can still get by. We did a funny video when I was down Dublin with him, where we're standing at a Korean barbecue, and I come up and was like, "Oh, di ma dai lo," like, "How you doing, boss?" You know, like that type thing. And I shake his hand, and then he replies in Cantonese, in Korean.
Okay.
And then we have like a two-way conversation where I'm going in Cantonese and he's going in Korean, and there's people like, "Oh, this is quite strange," because he's going off at me in Korean, I'm going off at him in Cantonese. It's just two white brothers speaking to each other. So I thought it was a pretty cool idea. So yeah, so he learned Korean because of that as well, and has built really wonderful friendships as well, which I have too, which I cherish still to this day. So
Yeah, it sounds like an amazing experience to be able to do that at like a pretty pinnacle age as well, right? 18, you're kind of like going out into the world, and
you're giving up. I know guys that were with me that had full like scholarships to medicine and to be doctors and all these things, and they give it up for 2 years. Now, I know you can like put it back or whatever, but and they ended up getting to do it, but it's still like it's a huge sacrifice. And like literally weeks before I was going to go and do this, I was called up to then selected to play for Ulster, which is this region in Northern Ireland, as a amateur, which is like what I worked for several years, you know. And then I was just like, I dropped that to go and do this. So it's a very selfless act, which taught me a lot. And yeah, it was a really cool experience. And then from that, I mean, I have like this social media that I have today stems from the fact I speak Cantonese. And when you take it back, it's because of that experience. I have my wife today who I love and is an amazing woman, but it comes back to the fact that I did that and I met her. So a lot of really cool things have come from that opportunity. And I know that's the same for a lot of other guys that do it. So it is a really, really cool thing that they do.
was it overwhelming for you when you moved there? Like,
100%. I wanted to go home for the first 3 or 4 months. I had like pictures of my family, which is probably the worst thing to have on your desk, you know. And I'm trying to study Cantonese, and I was miserable, and I wasn't getting anywhere initially, especially the very start. And like I said, I had headaches because in Macau it's Portuguese and Chinese. There's no English. Nobody's speaking English. These guys in my apartment and stuff were speaking Cantonese, and I was just stressed out. My head was killing me. And then I'd see my parents, and I was like, oh man, what I'd do just to be at home with them, you know. And it hurt me for 2 or 3 months, I'd say. But after that period, I got over it, and that's when I started falling in love with the language and the culture. And I just, as much as I missed them and I missed family and friends and things like that, I just got the head down, got stuck in, and knew that my time would come that I would go home. And it was a beautiful reunion as well, going home and seeing my family after 2 years away. It was really, really good, really, really good. So very, very grateful for that time in my life.
so was the language like the very first hurdle then when you got there?
Yeah.
That was the big thing.
Being away from home and understanding how to like try and spend, like you were trying to live on a budget as well. You were setting a monthly amount. You had to like budget money. I'd never done that before because my mum always got me everything, you know. I just turned 18, and then now all of a sudden I'm an adult in a distant land trying to work out finances and budget my money for groceries and bus fares and different things like that. Meanwhile, got a constant headache because all I can hear is Cantonese and I don't understand a word that's going on. So a mixture of those things, trying to settle into the fact that I've kind of got to fend for myself and work out, you know, wash my own clothes. I didn't do my own washing. My mum always did my washing, you know, it was just in my cupboards. So now I'm like, right, okay, I've got to wash, I've got to cook for myself, I've got to, you know, budget my money, and at the same time try and help and do these sort of projects and speak Cantonese to people. It's like, what? This is mad. So the initial like selling in period is rough, and I'd say it's pretty much the same for most people that do it. I think especially when you're trying to learn one of the world's tougher languages, maybe perhaps a little bit easier with the not to discredit them, but like the Spanish or something like that. But when you're speaking Cantonese, especially because it's a tonal language, you could say something very offensive if you get a tone wrong.
That's a lot of pressure.
I'll tell you a funny story. There was a guy there, and when you go there, you're given like a Chinese surname. I got a really cool one. Mine was Hong, which is Confucius. So his surname would be Hong. And the reason I got that is my surname is Peacock, and Peacock in Cantonese is Hong Zhe. Hong Zhe. So they give me that Hong because it is a Chinese last name. It's quite rare, but it is Confucius, who is Hong Zi, that Hong, right? So I got that character, and I was like, that's so cool. I've got this special Chinese name, you know? Because people, every time I would show people it or whatever, they'd be like, oh, Confucius, you know, that's a really cool name, blah, blah, blah. But a different guy got given the surname Dio, and it's got a high tone, right?
Oh, okay.
But if you say Dio, which I maybe shouldn't say, it's like a mid-rising tone instead of a high tone. It means basically F off, you know. So,
oh wow.
So he's trying to be of service and help people, and I know several times instead of saying the high tone, he said the mid-rising tone. So he's actually introducing himself as basically, I am such and such, F off, you know. So so that was pretty grim. I think he learned that lesson quite quickly, but that's the point I'm making. It's like when you're learning this language, the pronunciation and the tones are so important, because I think when you get to like the level that I'm at now, I don't say everything perfect all the time. I don't. I get sometimes a little thing wrong, but if I'm saying it like a full sentence and one of the tones is slightly off, people are going to completely understand, because even native speakers today, I've even said to my wife, oh, he said that slightly different than what, you know, by the textbook, the way it should be. But in the grand scheme of things, when you're putting a full sentence together, it makes sense. But if you're really struggling with tones and every other tone is kind of off, like they're just going to look at you and go, what? You know, I don't understand what's going on here. And that would happen a lot. It happened a lot to me initially as well, where you're really trying your best and they're just looking at you confused going, what?
Well, I think that a lot of people have heard that like Chinese has tones, and I feel like in the West, when people say Chinese, they're normally referring to Mandarin, but Cantonese has even more tones than Mandarin.
Correct.
Does,
it's
right?
it's the harder of the two.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like
yeah,
how many tones are there in Cantonese?
There's six. Now, people will say 9, and even some natives, and I've done a video on this because I've studied it. Like I've studied it via like the manual learning tones, because natives don't learn tones; they just learn character by character, and each character has a different tone or a different pronunciation, right? But when you learn it, like it's called like 9 sounds. The phrase in Cantonese would be "gao sang lok deal," which is 9 sounds, 6 tones, because there's 3 different tones that resemble tone 1, 3, and 6, but they have what's called like a check tone, because the way it refers to the way it's pronounced more than the actual tone itself. The tone does not change from either high, mid, or low. It's just the way you cut off the pronunciation at the end is slightly different. So I've explained that in like a video, but yes, people will say 9. There's 6 different tones. High, mid-rising, mid, low-rising, low, low-falling. So if I use like ga as an example, it would be ga, 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 ga. 6 different tones. Whereas Mandarin has 4. And another difference is the written and the spoken is the same in Mandarin, pretty much the exact same. Whereas Cantonese, the way you would read Cantonese versus the spoken is completely different. So it is quite difficult. But I think like I know a bit of Mandarin now. I haven't really pursued learning too much Mandarin because I just love Cantonese, and every time I've done like a trip back, it's always kind of in a Cantonese speaking area like Hong Kong, Macau. So but I should really push myself to try and learn more Mandarin. My wife's fluent in it. I understand loads. So I think I'd pick it up. 6 months of hard work, I think I could do quite well.
I mean, I've heard that Cantonese and Mandarin are kind of like Spanish and Portuguese. Is that right? Or?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. The pronunciation is somewhat different. I myself love Cantonese. I feel like it's a little bit more bouncy and vibrant and loving, whereas sometimes Mandarin's quite sure, sure. It sounds a wee bit like someone's getting told off all the time.
Kind of harsh.
Yeah, kind of harsh. But again, a great language too, which I really should focus on trying to learn a bit more.
When I took my one semester of Mandarin in university, I knew that there was tones in Mandarin, and I was like, yeah, that's okay. How hard can that be?
Yeah, yeah.
Naively. And then when they started getting into it, they explained how it's like, okay, this word might have tone 1, then tone 3, and then tone 4. But if you combine that with another word, then the tones sometimes change so that they're in harmony with each other or something like that, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah,
like where it was this tone, but because you tack on this other word, both of them become a different tone.
Yeah, so like the written in the Cantonese, sometimes it could be it could just be a low tone in the written form, but when people actually speak it, it'll be more like a mid-rising tone. So instead of being like do, it'll be do. When they're speaking it, the tone can change, dependent on what they're trying to say. But yeah, it's quite confusing, isn't it?
Yeah, because I was like, okay, there's tones that exist, and that's already a hard concept for an English speaker to understand. This seems hard. But then when they said that a tone can change from depending what word comes after it, I'm like, that's not fair. That's way too hard. Are you kidding me? Funny enough, you told me that your last name is what in your Chinese last name is
Hong. Hong. It's a mid-rising tone, so it's Hong, and then Zhe is mid, so Hong Zhe.
So in my Mandarin class, they gave everyone a Chinese name as well.
Okay, right.
And I don't remember what the tone was for my own name, but it was Huang.
Huang, right?
Was
okay,
my last name.
Huang.
So it's kind of close, right?
Huang, yeah. I think.
Hong and Huang.
Mine is Kong. I think it's Kong or Kong. I think the Hong turns into Kong. Don't. I definitely haven't got the tone right, but it's. I think it's pronounced more like Kong.
Your last name is more like a k sound.
Like a k, like a k sound, like a k sound. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like mine in the what is it? Is it pinyin? Is that the English?
The pinyin, yeah. We say pinyin for Cantonese or pinyin for Mandarin, yeah.
Where it's written in like
romanization.
Romanization, yeah.
Yeah.
I think for mine it was Huang.
Huang. So that's Wong in Cantonese.
Okay, but it's not the same as your last name.
No. So in Cantonese, your one would be Wong. So Wong, basically Wong. Depending on the tone, I would assume it would be a low falling, because if it's a Chinese surname, there's a couple of options, but it would be Wong or Huang. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was more like a H type of sound, because they were just trying to find a name that was phonetically close to my English name.
Yes,
and so my last name is Hartman.
Yeah, right, okay. So yeah, okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
So my name is Jared Hartman, and so it became Huang Jiaorui.
Yeah,
Jared
pretty good.
Hartman. And so,
it's pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. That's pretty good.
But I don't remember any of it. I was not super good at Mandarin, to be honest. It was a very challenging class.
Yeah, my in-laws picked our children's name, and my son is called Zach, so he got Hong, which is the surname, Hong, obviously my surname, and then Sek, which is like rock, Sek Yan. So they put this Sek in there, so like when they call him, they'll call him Sek. Like they'll say it twice over instead of saying Zach, like Zach, how are you? They'll be like Sek, Lady Ma, like how are you? So they use that character to. So
it kind of sounds similar.
Yeah. But it has a pretty good meaning as well. So yeah, they do that quite a lot.
Something else that I'm really curious about is, like, when you went to Hong Kong, obviously the language was a huge part of that. But what other cultural differences were there that you had to adapt to?
Well, when I got there, obviously heat is a huge factor as well, right? Because I'm born and raised in Northern Ireland. We don't really see the sun. We see the sun for several weeks a year. The weather here, which is probably why my wife's nudging me going, maybe we should move, because it can be quite depressing. It is depressing, to be honest. But the weather, because of just how hot and how humid, you'll understand that being out in Asia, it's just different. You walk out your hotel, you smell beautiful, you're all freshly showered, you don't even make it to the MTR and you're soaking in sweat. It's just like, it's crazy. So that, using chopsticks, I had no experience or exposure to chopsticks at all, So that was challenging. The way I learnt was I used to have a bowl of cereal and I would eat it with chopsticks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So like Cheerios or like little hoop like cereal. So I do that over and over again until I could do it. I don't use the conventional way. I just have my own little way, but it works. So that was different because it was always knife and fork for me. Just like table manners. Yeah, just things like that were just so different. Like sometimes people will eat with their mouth open as well. Like they'll just continue conversation and then keep putting food in their mouth. Which is very different from the way I was raised, because I was taught like keep your mouth shut when you're eating, because we don't want to see that food. Whereas I think maybe there it's more like, oh, you're enjoying yourself, that's good, that's good to see you're enjoying the meal. It's kind of the right thing to do there. Whereas here it's different. So the Western culture versus Asian culture in general, it's just very different, So I was always looking around me going, oh, these people are quite rude. And then my guy would nudge me and go, no, this is normal. I'd be like, oh, all right, okay. What about you? What's it like in out there in the Philippines? I've never been.
Actually, so this year in May, I went to the Philippines, but it was my first ever time there. So I spent a lot of time learning Tagalog and meeting Filipinos here in Canada.
Because I've met a lot of Filipinos in Hong Kong. There are a lot of the helpers and stuff that they go there. Obviously, there's a bit more money to be made, and so they go there. And a couple of the guys that were actually doing the same thing as me were from the Philippines. They came over to Hong Kong to do sort of missionary service as well and tried to learn Cantonese, which is cool. But when you say Tagalog, say it again.
Tagalog.
You sound exactly like him. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, I had a lot of exposure to the language and to the culture before I went there. So like I had spoken it for almost like 9 or 10 years. Well, I guess 9 years before I went there.
Why is that?
I had a girlfriend from the Philippines. That was my very first exposure to it.
It's always a woman, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's no greater motivation than wanting to connect with, your partner's culture and language.
I've had DMs, and people's like, my girlfriend is from Hong Kong. Can you help me say this? Or I want to learn Cantonese. Can you help me? I'm like, I can't help you do everything, but here's a phrase. Like.
No, I decided early on, like, I am going to learn this language. Like a month into the relationship, I was like, there's no way I'm not going to speak this. And we were together for 4 years in total. So I had a ton of exposure to that. So, but like you said, there are Filipinos working all over the world, right? And especially in Canada and North America, I suppose in general.
We have them. Right? We have quite a few here as well. They're international.
So I can speak Tagalog every day here if I wanted to. Like I didn't need to go to the country necessarily to speak the language, and I absorbed some of the culture through that as well. But this year was the first time I'd ever actually been to the country, and so
okay.
It was different. Like there were definitely some things that were different than I was expecting, but there was also a feeling of familiarity. Like I was pretty acquainted with kind of how Filipino culture was, and of course I could communicate with people in Tagalog, so that helped. But yeah, in terms of like specific cultural differences, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Filipinos are quite direct.
Yeah.
And so
that would be quite the same in Hong Kong. It can be quite offensive sometimes the way they say things. Yeah, very, very direct, very, very blunt.
How about like your physical appearance, for example?
Oh, 100%. Like I got married and I was very young. I was only 20, and I was very, 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 very lean. Very, very lean. I was maybe only 80 kilos, let's say. For me, it's 6'3". That's quite lean.
Wow. Yeah.
And now I would be probably 110 kilos. But yes, I carry a decent bit of body fat, but I've actually hit the gym quite a lot. My arms are bigger because there's a bit of muscle there too, but they don't take that into consideration. They just turn around and go in Cantonese, "Wow, they fade jaw." It's like, "Wow, you got fat," and I'm like, "What?" Like, I'm just different, But they say it like they say it to my wife, like, and it's their aunt, and it's like, "Wow, they fade jaw," and I'm like, "What? That's not something you say to a woman," like. But that's just the way they are.
Yeah, Filipinos are definitely like that as well with certain things. Like they'll just tell you how it is. They're just like, nah,
Yeah,
that, and so
yeah,
that took a little bit of getting used to. I think another thing that is probably a common thing in a lot of Asian countries is the level of respect, like speaking in a way that's different when you're talking to elders versus younger people, and that's something that's usually tied up in the linguistics as well. And so I did learn that I had to learn that early on with Tagalog, that like you use different words and having like honorifics, like titles for people. Like if you're not really close with somebody, or if they're older than you, just in general, you'll call them your older sister or your older brother. You don't call them by their name. And then adding in Tagalog, there's a particle that means like adds a respect to the sentence, and it's po. So you add that into the sentence if you're speaking to someone that's older than you. But you have to figure that out. Like as an English speaker, I have no reference for that other than like, sir and ma'am maybe, but I don't even use that in English. And so
yeah, yeah.
I was like, I don't know how that works. And then having to figure out like every sentence in Tagalog has a place where po could be added. But
Okay.
do you need to add it for every sentence? Or is every
Yeah.
other sentence okay?
Or is
Or
that-
like
yeah, is that too
how
much? Yeah,
often
yeah,
do you
yeah,
put
yeah.
it in?
Trying to-
Like
yeah.
those are challenging. Those are challenging things to figure
My brother
out.
said that about Korean. It doesn't really. I mean, every single relative or person has their own specific title. It's not auntie or uncle. They're all different, and it depends on mother's side or father's side. They're completely different
wow.
names in Chinese. Anyway, so that was. I forget them now. Like, yeah, I'm like, okay, your dad's older aunt is okay, and your dad's younger sister or brother, they're all different titles. So that was mind-boggling for me. But like my brother said the same sort of thing you're referring to about Korean. It's like when you're speaking to somebody older than you speak differently, and you use different words to address them and things like that. When you're speaking to a little guy who's maybe 12 or 13, you speak to him completely different to a woman in her 30s. I was like, that's, you're always switching it up depending on who you're speaking to. Is stressful, just and you're trying to learn the language. That's, yeah, difficult, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a tricky thing. And for me, I learned most of the language from my ex-girlfriend, right? And so we would speak with each other very informally. And then when I would meet someone that's older, I'd always have to think. Even now, I speak more informally than formally. So I always have to think, like, am I being respectful enough?
Would that be more local? Do locals really always speak respectfully to each other, or is that just something you're taught? Because that's what my brother said. A lot of the time, some of the locals, even though he was taught to do it a certain way, he then picked up towards the end. It's like, oh, not everybody's doing this. Like,
Well, when I spoke, like speaking the language with people in Canada, I assumed that I didn't have to be that formal, and I would cut a lot of that, and I would be more direct with people. When I went to the Philippines, I noticed that people were a lot more respectful.
okay,
Like
right,
even
right,
among
right.
young people and stuff. Even if the person you're talking to is younger than you, people would still be using these like respect particles. And I was like, oh, it actually made me kind of second guess what I had been doing for like several years before that, wondering if I maybe wasn't formal enough even.
Okay, right,
Seeing
right,
how
right.
they interacted with each other. So for me, it was the opposite probably then.
Interesting.
What's something that you really enjoy about Hong Kong culture?
Food, just their cuisine. I absolutely love it. It's funny because when I first went there, I hated it. Like I hated it. So when I grew up, my dad was a butcher in his early years when he was a real youngster, and he would always get real good cuts of meat, like really really good cuts of meat for dinner and for like Sunday roasts and things like that. But he would always trim the fat. Like I would never eat the fat. I only ever got like the prime bit of meat. I never was introduced to like even on a slice of bacon, like the fat would be removed, be cooked in
really?
fat, and then the fat would be removed. So that's just the way I was brought up. Plenty of meat, but like very little exposure to fat. So one of the very popular Cantonese dishes is cha siu fan, which is char siu on white rice with some green veg. It's just like a barbecue type pork, but there's always fat through it. There's always bits of fat, and it's very juicy, very sucky. It's very good. But initially, when I got there, I looked at it and went, "How are you going to eat that?" And they're all going. I'm going. Hold on a second. I just need to give myself a few minutes to like psych myself up for this. But I would eat it, and I'd be chewing on the fat and stuff like that because I'd never done it before. I was like, "This is different," and I'd like swallow, be like. I'd get it down and be like, lovely, yeah. I'll eat more rice. I'll eat more rice, you know. But honestly, like several months in, I don't know what it was. I just kept eating. I was like, I started to get a taste for this, and so like pork belly, which is loads of fat. I love it. You know, I absolutely adore it, and it's famous there. And this tasio dish, you know, I would eat these things probably most days, like most days out there, because you can get it from like, you know, like holes in the wall, like just holes in the wall, and just be a sweaty guy chopping meat, you know, and that's where I would go because I was like on a budget. But like you're getting a box of rice with a good solid portion of this type of meat with like a little bit of green veg on the side, which is a pretty good meal, good nutrition in there, and it's like £3, my money. £3 British pounds, because it was like about 30 Hong Kong dollar back then. You divide by about 10 to get to pounds. I don't know what that equates to Canadian dollars. If it's close to American dollars, is that right? Is it?
It's about 30% less than American dollars. So for me, it'd probably be like $5.
Yeah,
$6, something like that. $5.50.
Yeah, it's so cheap. It's so cheap, right? And so I was living on this every day, and I fell in love with it. So like, yeah, I just, every time when we were back in Hong Kong there, I would eat in these like whole, even though I don't have to necessarily eat there now. I want to eat there, you know. It's like, this is like home for me. I love coming here and like talking to these people and getting my dinner, or it was mainly for lunch then because we were meeting people for dinner and stuff. But yeah, I absolutely fell in love with that. So yeah.
But it was an acquired taste for you.
Acquired taste. Right off the rip. Definitely not initially. Hated it. It was so difficult. I did go to McDonald's quite often initially. You know,
is the McDonald's different there than it is in Northern Ireland?
Yeah, different menu. I think worldwide it changes depending on where you go, but I'm sure you guys do do poutine in McDonald's over there?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, so we don't get that here, so it's like a Canadian thing. So like McDonald's, obviously worldwide is always different, but there, yeah, like I love their breakfast. You could get like pancakes with sausage meat as well, so that doesn't exist here.
So like they're like together.
It's like savory. Yeah, it's savory. It's a mix of both. You can get these things, and it comes with like a jam and a syrup, but you've got meat on the plate. But it's really good. It's really good. I really liked it. So it's a little bit different, but a few different burgers and different choices and stuff there that you don't see here. But it was always a safe option. It was cheap. It's cheap. It's really cheap out there as well. It's only like £3-4 for a meal. Really, really cheap. Cheaper than here. But
is that sweet and savory a common combination in Hong Kong?
Yeah. I would say so. You can get like sweet breads with like meat inside them, like a tasio. That tasio I'm telling you about, that comes in like what would be quite a sweet bread, but then in the bread is meat.
Okay.
But it's a very beautiful blend. It's very good. So yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, because sometimes most of the time a country will have a different flavor palette than another country. But what I noticed when I went to Colombia, my girlfriend is from Colombia, is that they mix a lot of sweet and savory things together. Like they love that. Like they put cheese. They'll have like a fruit salad, just cut up fresh fruit and yogurt and all that kind of stuff, granola, and then they'll put cheese on top of it. So it's like this really sweet fruit, and then like kind of a savory cheese.
That sounds strange, but is it good?
It is good, yeah. It is a little bit strange, but you also like the cheese that they have is different. It's not like it's not like an old cheddar or something like that. It's quite is it a young cheese? Is that how they call it? A young cheese? Where it's
I don't know. I'm no cheese
not
expert.
really aged, and so it's quite mild. It doesn't taste very strong. It's mostly salty than it would be like.
Okay.
You know that old cheese taste. It's not.
I
like
know
that
what you
at
mean.
All.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's interesting how countries will mix flavors that in other places are like, we would never do that.
Yeah. But that's what I love. Like I would love to, and when we will end up, I would say next year at some stage we will probably be living in Hong Kong. We've already made moves. I mean, this house is getting done up all over the place, which is why I'm trying to find the right spot. Like the house is getting fixed up at the minute, but we are making serious plans about getting out to Hong Kong sort of next year, and I would love to discover more of Asia, including Philippines, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, Japan. Like I just love Asian culture in general. I just love it. I love I just love the people. I think it's awesome. I love the different styles of food. I prefer Asian cuisine over Western cuisine now, which is a bold statement because before exposure to that, like I was a real Western guy, you know, like burgers, fries, things that, you know, that was my go-to. Whereas now, like that is last on the list. Like if we're always going out for dinner, it is 99 times out of 100, it's Asian. You know, it's some sort of Asian cuisine, whether it be a Vietnamese place or Japanese sushi bar or something, is always Asian.
Would you say that the culture that you guys have cultivated at home is more Asian as well? More like Hong Konger?
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
you're already
so.
speaking a mix of Cantonese and English at home.
Yeah, normally because obviously if it's a biracial couple and you've got just this standard Northern Irish guy that does not speak Cantonese, he's going to be completely, so 50% of the relationship is going to be completely like Irish sort of culture and English, whereas obviously my wife, their mummy, speaks a lot of Chinese to them and will share little things about her culture, or we'll celebrate different holidays that you don't celebrate here, or Chinese New Year, which is not our standard New Year, right? They don't really celebrate the New Year. They wait until February and they do their Chinese New Year. So it's a bit different. So they're getting that influence from their mum, but I'm supporting it as well. So as much as like I don't want to lose my roots either, and they know they're half Chinese, half Irish, they know that. They know daddy's an Irishman, but yeah, you would be right in saying that it's maybe more 75-25 because of my influence as well, and my love for it. And I want my boys to be proud to be Asian, you know, because here's not a very diverse place, like at all. If you go into like city centres, which we only have one major city in the north of Ireland, Dublin down south, but Belfast is the capital here. So you go into there, you'll see different people with different colours of skin. You'll see some Asian people, some Filipinos perhaps, different people from around the world, but still mainly just white people normally. But when you come out to like these areas where we live in like a Bangor, which is like a seaside town, everyone's white really, like everyone really. So like one of the things that my son said to me, I think it was last year in his school, he says, "Oh, Daddy, there's another boy and his skin is like mine," because my son is not like pasty white, which most kids are. He has this sort of like bronze tint. He's got beautiful skin, not Asian skin, beautiful skin because his mummy has beautiful skin, and he has like this sort of golden sort of skin. It's a little bit darker than most people in his class, and it was actually an Indian kid, I think it was. It turns out he had a bit darker skin, and he was able to differentiate that because it's weird here. You don't see too many of them. So he mentioned that to me. So I think going to Hong Kong and letting them experience that part of them would be an awesome experience that we really want to do. So we're making serious plans to do that. It will probably most definitely be within the next 12 months, maybe 6 months. So that's what we're working towards. And I think the content will be really, really good out there as well, mingling with the locals. And then I want to go into China and discover like Guangzhou and then go north and teach. Obviously, by then I would like to assume my Mandarin will be better, and go into places like the Shanghai and Beijing and travel throughout Asia and document different content of different cultures as well. So I'm looking forward to that.
Dude, that'll be amazing. I can't wait for that content. I'll be here for it. I'll be checking it out.
I'll meet you in the Philippines. You can show me around.
Sure. Yeah, we'll do an exchange. Yeah. We'll go to the Philippines and then we'll go to Hong Kong.
100%. Yeah, sign me up. I'm in.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, even though we have experience with different countries and we've learned different languages, we do have something in common with being foreigners who have adapted to an Asian culture.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect. Like when my brother was out there struggling with Korean, I was like, "Don't worry, man, I've been there. Like it'll come if you keep genuinely trying." And he did. He fell in love with the Korean people and the language, and he got very, very good. And so I understand the struggle, because Asian languages they're difficult. They're difficult. I have a friend who ended up in Japan. Well, it's more like my brother's friend, but he went to Japan, Tokyo, and so he speaks Japanese today. So, and he was real struggling too. And I was like, "Look, man, it's gonna be fine. Just give it some time. Give it some time. It'll all be good." And it is. So it's hard, but it's really rewarding. And like you said, it gives you that little pat in the back when people are like, "Wow, it's so good to see." Like, because normally it's just some white guy shouting in English, and you don't understand what I'm saying. It's like, no, I'll just Cantonese. So.
And like even if you learn a language that doesn't have that culture around it where people are always patting you on the back and saying you did such a good job. Just learning a language in general is one of the most enriching things that I think you can do.
100%. It opens your mind. It just opens, I don't know, it just, yeah, it just, yeah, it opens up so many different opportunities too. The amount of people that I've met through it, that I just wouldn't have if I hadn't spoken Cantonese. I was at a seminar recently from a kind of an entrepreneur who's based here, and he invited me as a guest. We follow each other, and anyway, he asked questions, and I stood up and I mentioned about my Cantonese ability. He goes, "That reminds me, I have a guy who really needs some of the help in his business, and it's like a big, large business. Cantonese speaking, something to do with the Hong Kong side of his business. I need to introduce you guys." So it's things like that that's just like so many doors have opened simply because I learned the language, you know. And I don't think people understand that. We just take speaking English for granted. And I think in the West, well, especially here in the UK, I know a few people in like USA and stuff. They learn like Spanish and stuff. There's quite a lot of people speak Spanish in the US, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Whereas here, it's just not really a thing. Everyone in the UK just speaks English. You know, it's quite normal just to have one language. So, yeah, I would agree. I would encourage everyone to learn a language, whatever language that is. I prefer Cantonese.
Not that you're biased or anything, but if you might as well be Cantonese.
Yeah, might as well be Cantonese. Start with one of the harder ones, you know.
Hey, this has been really, really fun, man. I really appreciate you chatting with me.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I've enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, I enjoyed getting to know you a little bit. This is obviously the first time that we've met, so thank you for sharing your story with me, and hopefully we can chat again sometime in the future.
100%. Yeah, anytime. Just reach out, and yeah, I'll be watching your content for sure, and perhaps one day we'll meet up in Asia.
Yeah, let's do it, man. I'll be watching your content too. Okay,
yeah.
Sweet, man.
Appreciate
let's leave it
Cheers,
here.
Jared.
Really appreciate it, man.